Hello everyone, welcome to this episode with one of our esteemed faculties at CFAL, Dr. Shrikant Bhai. Hi Shrikant, and today I wanted to discuss few points that we have been troubled with or the questions that have come from our troubled kids or troubled students or troubled parents. These are the questions that have been bugging them. So there are a few questions which I wanted to get it out there so that you as a faculty also can answer these questions and the students can get benefited out of this. So the first and the foremost question is either the student should prepare for the exams or just the topics.
Right. So I guess this must be an age-old debate, between students and teachers, right? In some sense, because I should not say teachers, I should say educators. As educators, I think in CFL, largely we have educators. I mean, I think my colleagues who I speak to, physics, maths, all these teachers, can say surely that lots of us are educators. By that I mean we want to make sure our students have an all-round education. Now, what does that mean? We want them to be functioning citizens. Tomorrow, whatever education they take from us, we want them to be able to apply in real life. Become good engineers, become good serving. So whatever job they go into, we want them to serve well. That's the angle with which we imagine and teach everything. So when it comes back to the question exams versus topics, right? I think educators will say topics, right? And as I said, I'm an educator, so I'll say topics are really more important. And I'm going to maybe explain a little bit and say why I think it's actually superior to preparing to exams. In other words, what I mean is, if you prepare for topics, you'll also be a topper in exams. I think so. And this is my belief, and I'll maybe try to explain that a little bit. So, what is this distinction? So basically, if you think about it really, right? There are, I think, maybe hundreds of exams in India. Right? Every state has its own CET, perhaps, right? And then, according to streams, there are division. There will be some archaeology and all these things exams. Then there will be NEET or biology-based exams. Then there will be, it can be divided across subjects, across states. Imagine hundreds of exams. Right? So imagine preparing for an exam must be a nightmare, because you should be preparing for hundreds of different exams, hundreds of different papers you have to take, you have to write. I think it's almost impossible that anyone can prepare for hundreds of different exams. It's just not possible. The second thing I would like to point out is if you take any of these different exams, okay, and you look at the top 100 list or something, you'll see very common faces there. They are almost always the same. So that may make you feel maybe these guys must then have prepared for hundreds of exams. Yes. I think it's false. And nobody can prepare for hundreds of exams. So what really happened? I think, from my years of experience, I can pretty much be sure to say that actually these students, the best students, they did prepare for topics. Because at the end of the day, no matter how many exams human beings as adults we may divide for our purposes in society to function, right? To organize seats and everything we might do for whatever reason. But really, there are only very few ideas. Topics are very few. When you take science, if you say physics, conservation of energy is a topic. Conservation of energy is conservation of energy even if you write a NEET exam, if you write a JEE exam, if you write CET, any exam in the world you write. You go to MIT abroad, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, they have an entrance exam, conservation of energy is the same. So once you learn what is conservation of energy, you know to apply it in a few problems, you understand how it works, you have intuition, you can forget about exam to go or any exam. I wake up in the middle of the night, you should be able to go and write that exam. That is my idea, what I mean by topic. I am dividing things according to topics. So I think an efficient way to prepare for exams, an effective way to prepare for exams is to focus on topics.
Okay.
And as teachers, we are aware. I know that students are, I understand the students' point of view also. It is not like, I'm saying it my own thing and I don't understand. I was also a student before, right? So I understand the pressure in school, in up to 10th standard, exam is everything. You have to score the highest in 10th standard, then they are given awards called for, it's considered a big thing. Right. I think as adult you also know, how many of us use our 10th standard marks in day-to-day life? When you apply, let's say, job in CFAL or somewhere else, right. Did they ask you 10th standard marks? How much did you score? I don't think anybody cares about the 10th standard marks. Right. So I don't think it matters at all. It is only locally we think it is an important thing.
Correct.
Indeed, it is important in the sense in a very competitive place where it's very hard to get a good PUC college. Yeah. You want to get a good 10th standard marks. I understand that.
Yes.
But I think students are so into exams at a school, because it's in school it's highly and also the thing is that people score 100 out of 100 very easily. So they are not used to this JEE style and even worse Olympiad style where even if you score 30% you can be a topper.
Yes.
They are not used to this.
Yes.
So they are not used to not getting marks. They believe it is Nanna Janma Siddha Hakku. 100 out of 100, beko.
Yes,
That, you know,
yes.
we want it. So that's not how it goes.
Right.
So if I have to tell students, appeal to the students and the parents and so on, I would say there is you are kids initially, and as kids you are consumers. Consumers meaning your mother prepares food, you eat, right? Your teacher prepares your notes, you eat, right? Your entertainment shows prepare something, you sit and watch and you eat, right? You are consuming, you are a consumer, you are a voracious eater. You eat food, you eat knowledge, you eat concepts, you eat everything, everywhere in all directions.
Yes.
And somewhere when you grow up, you become a producer, you're not just a consumer, you give back to society. You create those things which others are eating, right? As a teacher, you produce material which children, can consume. As a musician, you prepare music which others can listen and enjoy, right? As a cook or, you at home, you prepare some food which others can eat.
Right.
So somewhere you have responsibilities where you start consuming and you are producing, right? So between consumption and production, somewhere in between is the bridge. That bridge is the teenage, right? Between adults and children. So at some point, I think children from 10th standard, when they come to 11th and 12th, have to learn to take responsibility. Little bit, I'm not saying entirely. Slowly start taking up responsibility where they say, it's not a teacher's entire job to give me food and I will consume.
Right.
Give me easy questions, sir. Formula you give me, I will put it in. Not like that. But rather, I will also think a little bit. I will see what I can do with my brain rather than only listening to teacher.
Right.
Slowly, just push yourself. It's not an easy thing. I'm never saying it's easy. So I would say to students, think that the topic's focus is in the following sense. Ask yourself, why is the teacher teaching this topic? Ask relevant questions to the teacher. Sir, where will we ever use it in real life? How will I think about it really if I given a question? Forget all this exams and all. Why will if I say trigonometry, where will I use it? I'll say, it can be used to measure heights and distances, buildings.
Right.
You might see on the roadside surveyor sitting and measuring. So you can use that angle and measure. Then you can actually do, now you are really thinking in real life, how to use that concept.
Yes.
Ask questions to teachers which are real life based questions. Ask them, why do we care about it? How should we think about it? I think teachers will love it. I'm sure if you are in my class and you ask me this, I'll be so happy. Next 1 hour I'll explain to you how it is used and everything. And suddenly you'll start seeing how it's so nice and easy when it comes to JEE also. You can, JEE questions are at the end of the day taken from real life or some math ideas, right? Maybe not directly real life, but some ideas.
Yes.
So suddenly when you start visualizing, it becomes easier, right? So many people think JEE is very hard. Every year new type of questions are given. It's not true. It's new type of questions are given if you only by heart the given question.
Right.
If there are only very few concepts, now if I give trigonometry, sin theta, cos theta, few relations are there. If you know that, then you can even solve JEE questions. They are not hard. That's how we teach.
Correct.
So learn through topics. Ask questions pertinent to topics, right? So be an adult. Be on your path to becoming an adult, right? So, ask relevant questions. Think how you will use this concept in your mind,
Right.
Ask questions based on that. Every question, think for yourself. Don't forget about formulas.
Yes.
Just think how will you come up with this formula, because formula is again consumption.
Right.
Somebody did the formula, you want to be handed that in. But what if you were marooned on an island, nobody gave you this formula? You had to come up with this formula. So you have to create the formula.
Yes.
So I would say, do that. Start. It's hard, but do it.
Yes.
I'm sure the teachers will help you. At CFL, we'll love it. All the teachers will help you do that.
Correct.
So in fact, the ones who ask such questions we have seen become amazing scorers.
Right.
And when I say this, I don't want to basically name an individual student and so on, but I have some people in mind coming up who, when they came to 10th standard, were just interested in such questions, but their scores were not that high. But within a year, you see their scores going up.
Okay.
They are also beating their friends. They are going into top 10 and so on.
Right.
Because the questions are on point, Why do we care about it? Why do we care about it? Even this year, I know such students who have become better and better over the year, who asked the correct questions, who cared about the subject really deeply rather than, exams.
Right. Yeah. I think, like you rightly told, in the 10th standard, till up to 10th standard, they are sort of trained for it. And today, that is where we have these kind of questions when, like you told, if somebody prepares for topics, they emerge as toppers, and you see familiar faces, similar faces on all the all the exams as toppers. So we had this student called Sanjana who just graduated from CFAL. In fact, she was a KVPY scholar. She was a high scorer of NEET here.
Yeah.
She did really well in JEE, and she was coming for the Olympiad classes also.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she never sort of got fixated on one exam per se. But I see a lot of students today are coming up with questions like, I am preparing only for this exam, so why should I care about something else?
Yeah.
So that is where I feel we are not able to get through to them, or the students need to have clarity as of it's not about the exams at the end of the day, but they need to enjoy the topic when they are studying it.
Yeah.
And then probably they like you told, they need to come up with understanding what are the real life applications of these kind of concepts, and that would pique the curiosity and the interest within them. So this is one of the biggest dilemmas that our students face.
No, actually, there is a serious issue here. So it's a good test to do. So I remember, couple of years ago, when this corona was in its peak, I was taking feedback because it was online, right? Entire thing was online, and I wanted to know feedback because online is very hard to teach. So I was taking feedback, and I got a feedback. I'm happy that one student honestly, bravely gave me the feedback saying that my classes are not useful for JEE. He said, I teach Olympiads, which is not true. Actually, once I finished the first few months of Olympiad, I only teach for JEE, you could say, in some sense. When I say I teach for JEE, I mean topics related to JEE.
Yes.
I teach topics actually. So when I was doing this, he said that, and I was like very surprised. Because I know it's not true. So then I wanted to establish a point. I think students have no enough experience to teach, right? They just came from 10th standard. What do they know which is Olympiad, which is JEE? Right. So to prove that point, what I did is, I took 10 problems, okay, and asked them on the spot, you have to tell me which one is, actually some of them are from some famous Olympiads, some questions are from JEE, but I wrote everything as multiple choice.
Okay.
They have to now tell which one is JEE, which one is Olympiad.
Okay.
And they failed miserably at discovering which one is JEE, which one is Olympiad.
Right.
So, I want them to do this test. If someone challenges me as a student, let's have this test, double blind test. They don't know which questions I'm going to prepare.
Right.
I can show them from where I have picked later, once the test is over. But on the spot, I will prepare 10 questions. They have to just mark whether it's a JEE question or an Olympiad question. Right. If they can detect most of the Olympiad questions correctly, then they have a sense for which is Olympiad, which is JEE. But I have already done this with a couple of batches. They can't tell which one is which. Right. Because I don't think anybody can tell which is JEE, which is Olympiad. Because at the end of the day, JEE is a hard exam. Olympiad is also a hard exam.
Right.
Okay, and in some sense, hard questions are hard. So what students tend to do, and I know what happens, what students tend to do is when you initially teach them Olympiad, they are very hard questions, right? Olympiad problems are like you take long hours to think. You given a question, you have to think for 1 hour, 2 hours. Yes. Students are not used to it. 5 minutes, they have no patience. Their brains are like Instagram reels, right? So like, quickly they want to get next one like that. So, they're like, they don't want to think a lot. They can't see a half an hour YouTube video like this one. Right. So basically, they don't want, they think, okay, any question requiring lot of thinking is Olympiad question. Right. JEE you have to solve quickly, right? Yes. So anything that is 10-minute, 5-minute question, JEE question. Right. They think like that. That's their division in their brain, which is all wrong. Correct. It might be a 5-minute question for me, the JEE question, but for them it is not a 5-minute question today. Yes. If they practice enough, by the end of second year it might be a 5-minute question. Not today. Yes. So today they have to practice thinking, in the exercises. So they don't know that, So they think, okay, this guy, he gives me only hard questions, they are all JEE, they are all Olympiad. It was not true. I take actually JEE questions. In fact, I was teaching this year second year batch. I was taking all JEE questions. They were struggling to solve. I gave them a JEE paper, some of it they couldn't solve quite easily. So you should realize that JEE problems are hard. It's one of the hardest exam in the country in the sense of competition. Not hardest in the terms of this thing, like Olympiads are hardest maybe in terms of concepts. Right. But JEE is hard because too many people, write it. Right. Which means the most difficult question become the deciding questions. Right. So in some sense it's as hard as Olympiad in that sense. Yes. And JEE has lots of syllabus compared to Olympiads. In that sense you have to learn a lot, a huge width of subjects. Right. So breadth of subjects rather. So I think students should not be fixated on what is Olympiad, what is JEE. I'm saying you don't have the skill to know what is Olympiad, what is JEE question, really, to be honest, at this stage. By the end of second year you can tell, I'm pretty sure. If I ask my ending second years, they will be better at distinguishing Olympiad questions from JEE. But first years are not,
Yes.
So you just come from 10th standard, focus on concepts. I'll show you how it is used, basically. So don't be fixated on these things. I'm sure you will do much, much better in exams if you start focusing on topics, and you will see it is so easy to prepare. You won't be overwhelmed. One of the best examples of this in physics is rolling motion problems. Okay. So rolling motion, I remember when I was learning, I didn't go to any coaching classes. When I was learning, I felt overwhelmed because I opened this book called Arihant and I started solving problems without reading the concept. I ignored the concept, started solving problems. I had to learn this kind of problem, I had to learn that kind of problem. This when it rolls over a step, I have to learn. When it jumps over a loop, I have to learn. Yes. Inclined plane. Yes. All various confusion biatic. Right. Instead of learning the main concept. When is V equal to R omega? I never learned. Instead of that, everything I did. I struggled, I gave up on rolling motion. Right. Then when the final exams came around, I was like, okay, I don't understand something at all. So I went up to Resnick Halliday, opened it up, read the chapter carefully. Right. Then I realized, oh my God, there are only 3 concepts in this entire thing. V equal to R omega, angular momentum conservation of energy in angular energy. Using these 3, every problem can be solved. Simply I was wasting time learning configuration, hundreds of configurations. I mean, I think I understand. I was a student once. There's a tendency to go to Orient or some JE book and solve lots of problems without learning the concept.
Yes.
It is never useful. I'll tell you with experience.
I think that is what happens to the students. They feel like, okay, I will, if I solve 30 problems from this, I am done. I know the concept. Because I think that is how they are trained till 10th. Because there it is like there is exercise 1, 10 problems, exercise 2, 10 problems. You are done with that, you are thorough with the topic. But that doesn't simply work in the case of competitive exams or topics in the 11th and 12th. And I think that is a kind of gratification they try to find by solving problems which they are not able to get from this. So that is rightly put. And I think the point established here is, yes, don't be sort of fixated on one exam and don't think that just because you are a JE aspirant or a NEET aspirant, Olympiad classes are not for you. It is not to do with the exams, it is to do with the topics. And when you're preparing for the topic, it automatically converts into you doing really well in the competitive exams as well.
Also, it opens up doors to other, professions tomorrow, right?
Right.
So imagine, look at the tragedy. Imagine, in 10th standard or 9th or something, you decided, I will be a JE aspirant, the best JE aspirant. And you work hard day and night and you're not doing well, you keep doing it. And by 11th mid or 12th mid or something, you realize, I can't do this, I'm burnt out and everything. But architecture, you're awesome. Any drawing based things you can do very well. When you look at architecture based subject, it is very intuitive. Videos are very intuitive. It looks like you can become a great architect. But if you forced yourself to become this JE aspirant and everything, forced and went in that direction, you lost being a great architect. You could have made lots of money tomorrow. You could have been the best architect in the country. You just lost it. No? So I think randomly deciding you will become something without in tune with your skills may not be a good idea. So keep your doors open. Keep your doors open. You might become anything tomorrow. You don't know. But make sure that you should have a good sense of what your skills are. You should have a good sense of what you want to be. It's good to keep a goal and work towards it. I'm not denying. JE also. But keeping your options open is also very good, right? Because you can go into a different direction. I think CFL has had interviews of people who went into marketing. There was a student, Darren Loeb, I think there was an interview where he works for design and stuff. And he had a very good sense of aesthetics and so on. When we were doing geometry, I remember he had a good sense of aesthetics. So there are different kind of students who have different skills. And once their skills match that particular aptitude, they become amazing professionals in that direction.
So they should not close doors with these fixations. They should be open and receptive of everything that comes their way. That is the whole idea.
Exactly,
Very nicely put. So the other aspect which I think the students and parents need to know is, what different does CFL do compared to the other, let's say, places that are in the same sort of venture in terms of education of competitive exams or anything. So how is it different at CFL, the pedagogy or the way of teaching or the atmosphere, whether it is conducive for this, or how do we differentiate from other centers?
So our teachers often, the educators in our direction, often focus on the broader perspective that education is meant to enrich the students so that they become good professionals tomorrow. That is, I would say, the punchline of a CFL educator, at least. The educators I know who have been with CFL from a long time. And even the new ones who join us, we tend to sort of push them in that direction, try to be in that direction. So the idea is that we are not focusing on, do well in exam today. We want them to make sure tomorrow when they go into that college, they are toppers. Tomorrow they go and work in a job, they are awesome. They're just natural. There's no stress in their life. So I'll tell you, when I studied in NIT Surathkal. I studied ENC in NIT Surathkal. And ENC is generally one of the top sort branch, right? So in my class, there were a few toppers from Andhra Pradesh who scored 2-digit All India ranks and so on. Very high ranks, okay? So I was a 2-digit rank from Mangalore, Karnataka. But they were like from All India. So their scores were very high. I'm a 4-digit rank when I was 1,800 something All India rank or something during that time. So now you would think that they would do best, right? I mean, they did the 2-digit rank, they're amazing high rank compared to somebody else. So they should do very well in NITK, but that's not true. One guy did really well, he was amazing. But the remaining two who joined and all were, did very badly. They didn't score well, they almost failed in exams and so on. Now one would wonder, why would that happen? This is very common. The ones who did well in, they didn't necessarily do well. And the reason we know, if you see them, it's not that they are not smart, they are smart, but they are burnt out, they are exhausted. And they are used to this training where everything is taught to them and they have to do it on their own. They are not used to thinking, right? So basically, which is what I said we do in CFL. We give them to think. I recognize that adolescence is a bridge between children and adults. They have to think for themselves. We try to push them in that direction. Now, if that is not done, if you don't account for that, you don't discuss that, then what tends to happen is even you'll have these children going into NITK or in engineering. And there also they have to be fed in. And nobody is going to feed. Which professor is going to feed anything? Nobody is going to feed. And suddenly they don't know how to prepare for classes, and they give up. They find it's too hard, it's unnecessary. Their teachers are not good in engineering college. People complain, engineering college teachers are not good. Right. This kind of a thing. Because they have never become their own adults, Yeah. So when you go into engineering, you learn, let's say, take computer science. You take a program. Why should I write this program? Why do we care about this program? They have never asked that question ever in their life.
Yes.
So we at CFL, coming back to your question, what do CFL does differently? We try to keep pushing, no matter how much our children resist, we keep tending to push the idea that you have to think for themselves. Right. That is a very important thing.
Yes.
Okay. Even we were discussing recently an idea where we said that we will create a booklet where some questions are given, and our teachers will never discuss that, but the children have to write on their own and think about on their own, fill in the answers, and parents can check whether children are working out on their own. Again, another component where children think for themselves. Right. So because we want to know whether children are sitting and thinking of problems on their own, right, other than what the teachers are doing in class. It's a very important aspect of growth. So this growth we recognize as an important aspect in CFL. So this is one thing which is another thing is focus. Typically I see in this online lectures when I see this quota and all these kind of factories which teach lots of standard way of teaching JEE is always like, मैं आपको एक simple formula दूंगा, here's a simple formula. You simple formula, you'll trash this thing. I think these are all marketing strategies. It is like when some insurance salesman is trying to sell you insurance. It is like that, It may look easy, but you should not fall for the scam. Because you see all these simple formulas, the way if you want, I'll show you this amazing trick which most people fall for. So if you take any of these standard JEE textbooks and all, you will see that all the required concepts for JEE, whichever has come, has been done in that book. Right. But the joke is, if you take 10 years ago book, you will see some of the concepts are not there. Every time a new concept is asked in JEE, they add that extra section. Right. So in other words, really the student who is preparing that year will never have those extra concepts which are going to ask for that time, for the first time.
Yes.
So in CFL, we don't have that. In CFL, we come up with questions on our own. Many of our teachers create questions on their own, come up with questions from various directions. I think other coaching classes also do. I'm not saying we are the only ones, but we certainly do that for sure. We have emphasis on that. And because of it, sometimes our questions repeat. You can ask my students, they regularly tell me this as well. In fact, one year, 2 of the questions I gave in a mock Olympiad exam came almost similarly for that year's RM Olympiad. Wow. Okay. And the children joke that, I'm leaking the papers or something like that.
So you're the secret paper setter.
Yeah, that's what they said. You must have sent the paper. It is just luck. But in some sense, at the end of the day, even these Olympiad mathematics teachers, where will they take their questions from? From mathematics, right? They also take from there. So it's luck that sometimes they appear.
Yeah.
So in some sense, my point here, punchline is that in CFL, we also tend to have originality in creating and propagating good questions, independent of whether they come in JEE or not. And that sometimes has a negative effect that students look at my problem set or somebody's problem set and say, look at JEE book and say, my questions never come in JEE. So I'm teaching things that are not there in JEE. And I tell them the answer is, it is not yet in JEE. It will come next year or next to next year. And it has happened.
Yes.
One of my favorite examples is, I think, 3-4 years ago. This math concept called derangements. People can check the notion called derangements. I used to teach it from 10 years, derangement concept. People will be like, sometimes students complain it didn't come. It came in JEE. 1 year, that concept came. And the ones who knew, the students who paid attention in my class could immediately take the answer. It's something like that. It was very easy. So it is like that. The concepts, they keep trying to build new concepts. Right. And I also keep trying to do that. So, they learn a lot of it. So I'll say that focusing on thinking for themselves is one CFL strength. Second is, trying to come up with original questions so that they can think for themselves. When you come up with the original questions, you can't simply Google, right? You have to sit and think for yourself.
Yes.
So to force them to think for themselves, again, we give original questions. We look for original questions. Teachers come up with content, a very nice content. Right. Not just me. I said all our educators in CFL who care about good teaching. Right. They all come up with wonderful. You see their problem sets. Some of them, I love them. Sometimes I take a printout and go home and try out my colleagues' problem sets. Right. They're beautiful, actually. Right. So I think these two are certainly the main things. Yes, thinking for themselves. Actually.
Correct. And on that, I think also the environment is very conducive for this kind of a training, because I think students are also sort of, they want to sit and independently work, and they form their own peer groups. Yeah. And there is provision for that through the GDs and everything, which they should utilize it properly. Of course, they should not misuse it. Yeah. But when that happens, I think there is a very good conducive atmosphere for preparing for these kind of competitive exams. Right. I think GD's idea was also, you were at the root of it when this GD sessions were introduced. So what was the idea behind it?
I mean, I was not there at the root, but when it happened, I was there,
Yes.
and I was discussing what the discussion is. I think Mervyn and others were there.
Yes.
So the GD discussion was actually exactly this, that that students see, we are focusing on, as you said, it's in fact what you said, only I'm repeating in a different way. So basically, there's already the idea to think for themselves, right? How much can a single person think for themselves?
Yes.
After a while, you get stuck. It's frustrating. Anything in life is fun when it's done with friends.
Yes.
You're going out and having a coffee is also fun when you're doing it with peers, with your friends, and so on. So solving a problem together is also fun with friends. You try something, you get stuck. You tell, hey, I have thought about idea up to here. Then somebody gets another idea, and then you mix it up.
Correct.
So actually, the idea of GD was that. The idea of GD was a group discussion where people get together, form small groups, and discuss and so on. It's not some formal thing where simply they have to sit and do something.
Yes.
Find your best friends. Mix up into a group,
Right.
and start discussing ideas.
Yes.
Throw ideas at each other. Don't be silent. Just throw ideas at each other and so on. And if there is a friend who is a little silent, try to inculcate them into also discussions.
Yes.
See what they are trying to do. Ask them questions.
Yes.
Have a conversation.
Yes.
It's to have conversations about things you are discussing. It's learning is fun when you have conversations about what you are doing. So something like that. So I think GD, coming back to GD, it is a way again to enrich the learning experience.
Right.
So that discuss together. I think you guys, those children should be discussing it outside school also. Calling up their friends and asking, hey, did you do this DPP?
Yes.
I'm stuck here.
Right.
That should happen, They should organize on their own, going to their friend's house together to ask the parents. In fact, we had, I think, 3-4 years ago, Samarth Bhatt's batch. I think there used to be a group of Samarth Bhatt and all these people who were like 5-6 people, a group of 6 people who used to go into each other's houses, together sit and solve.
Right.
All of them did well. I think all of them went to IISc or something.
Oh, very
Many of them went to IISc or CMI and other places.
Oh, wow. They need to look forward to having this. I mean, utilizing the GDs for starters in a better way.
Better way, yeah. How to use it.
And the purpose need to be served in a proper way. It is not that you simply sit with the problem sheet and try to solve it.
Exactly.
It is more to be in a noisy environment, throw ideas at each other and start solving problems. I think that is very important. Yes. The other common question I think the students sometimes have is whether they should dedicate separate time for board preparations and separate time for competitive exam preparations. I think again it comes to the point of topics, really falling in love with the topics. But I think there is a clear distinction because boards are a separate entity and the competitive exams are a separate entity. So students are generally stuck between the both, I feel. So how do you advise them to address this?
No, I'm definitely not denying that there is a distinction, that there are different exams. It's a reality that there are exams.
Exactly, yes.
There are exams is a reality, and you have to go and write those exams as a reality. And doing well in these exams have consequences is also a reality. I mean, sometimes, I don't know how it works now, but sometimes 50% of your board exams will be added to CET and all. Sometimes few years will be there, few years they'll remove it.
Well, in the pandemic year they removed. Right now it
is there. They keep alternating. So I never keep track of this now.
Right.
It's like the stock market for me. If you ever know to invest in the stock market, you want to filter the noise which is going up and down. It's like that. So the CET, whether you add the NCERT scores or not, I've started filtering. So you should, depending on the year, it will change. Maybe it's there now.
Now it is there.
Yeah. So again, it will then be, it has consequences again.
Right.
So, and it's real consequences now, right? Because it will affect whether you'll get a good engineering college or not. So it's important. So I'm not denying, but you should know what is the weight of it, So sure, it is there, but what will be the deciding factor? So NCERT, sure, it is there, but if you are planning to prepare to do well in CET, then you should be very good at NCERT already, right? That has to be true. So does that mean we first learn NCERT, then do CET, and is it like that? I don't think so. So I think it should be learned by topics. That's more important. First, understand the topics.
Yes.
Once if you understand the topics, then you can understand, okay, for NCERT, what should I do? For CET, what should I do?
Yes.
I mean, how do I say this? I think a good way to think about this is...
No, I think the problem rises from the place where a lot of this conventional, let's say, coaching centers or the colleges where they introduce this, there's a clear distinction that ಮೊದಲು ನಾವು NCERT ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದರ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ CET NEET ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. So the colleges generally tell this or the centers tell this, like first prepare for the boards, we'll prepare you for that, only after that we will take up a synopsis and solve few problems with shortcut formulas. I think this is the general norm.
No, I understand that. Actually, that has some merit. It's not completely without merit. I understand, because you see, NCERT, and this is the conversation I typically tell, it's like having food, You can say, I'll have plain food today. Anna sambar saku. Majge anna saku. Very simple, very elementary. Anna sambar. Only 2 padartha and nutrition I'll go. So you can say NCERT is something like that. Some people, I'm telling you the model and people are thinking about it, right? So NCERT is like that. What is the bare minimum subject you should put? NCERT has done that. NCERT is for everyone to pass. Let's say that's the punchline of NCERT. Everyone should pass. So they have put topics in that way. So it's bare minimum. Okay. So then comes, tomorrow, okay, among them, we want the best, at least the best students to go to JE, the next best students to go to some NITK and so on. Then the next best students to go to local, some Karnataka colleges, CET.
Parallelly medical NEET.
Again, similarly for NEET. AIMS maybe you'll write, I don't know.
Yes.
And then other colleges, local colleges and so on. So there is a gradation.
Yeah, AIMS, JIPMER,
JIPMER, yeah, exactly.
Then you have Karnataka State Colleges.
Exactly.
Bangalore Medical College,
Exactly.
KMC Manipal,
correct.
KMC Mangalore, Mysore Medical College.
Yes,
These
exactly.
colleges.
So for NEET also there is an analogous. It can be, I'm sure for architecture also there is, which I don't know.
Yes.
So everything has a gradation of the most sought after colleges all the way down to lesser and lesser sought after colleges.
Yes.
So when you do this, right, so you want to give obviously the best possible college to the most skilled so that you produce the best effect in society.
Yes.
Right? That's how people think.
Yes.
So that way the exams tend to ask way more than NCERT. NCERT is bare minimum for people to pass. The other extreme is the best students.
Yes.
So which means that these exams must be filtering all the students who are just passing and getting the best possible students.
Yes.
Right? So this whole gradation is there between NCERT and till the end.
Yes.
This entire school. So now what happens is that so therefore because of the difficulty of the exams, what even coaching classes and everybody tends to think is NCERT. Then CET has some extra topics. Then there are some extra topics for like JEE mains kind of thing. Then some JEE advanced or something like that. You put some gradations and put more and more topics.
Yes.
And then as you said, this idea comes. ನಾವು ನಿಮಗೆ NCERT-ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಕಲಿಸ್ತೇವೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಉಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ CET ಪ್ರಿಪರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಅನ್ನ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪಲ್ಯ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ ರೈಟ್ ಸಮ್ ಅಡಿಷನಲ್ ಟೇಸ್ಟಿ ಫುಡ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ ಗೋಬಿ ಮಂಚೂರಿ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಗೊಂಡು ನಾವು ತಿನ್ನೋಣ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್ ದಟ್ ಬೈ ಲೇಯರ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಡಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಮಾಡೆಲ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬಟ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ವೇರ್ ಇಟ್ starts failing is that it is true that you can divide it this way. But if you start spending too much time on NCERT, then you don't have time to do this JEE and so on.
Right.
Another thing is JEE advanced questions you wouldn't believe. JEE advanced sometimes has less syllabus than JEE mains.
Right.
If you open up and see.
Correct.
JEE mains has more syllabus than JEE advanced.
Yes.
So this analogy is not strictly true.
Yes.
JEE advanced has less. So what does it mean? JEE advanced problems are harder.
Yes.
Doesn't mean it is simpler.
Yes.
In fact, JEE advanced there are problems, I can show you, which use only NCERT concept. I mean, whatever has been told you in NCERT, only that is used in that problem. But you have to think a lot in that problem.
Yes.
So it is not really true that there are these layers, NCERT,
Right.
JEE Advanced. JEE Advanced has the highest level. There's nothing like that.
Yes.
The topic might directly be only NCERT related, but you have to think a lot.
Yes.
So really, honestly, the answer is the following. These are not segregated according to number of topics, no. This is segregated according to amount of thinking you have to do.
Right.
Amount of skills you need to have.
Right.
So that is the real answer.
Yes.
Which again circles all the way back to my original claim. Study according to topics. Right?
Yes.
Think about ideas on your own for a long time.
Yes.
The ones who do more and more thinking, train their brain to think on their own for a longer and longer time, do well in JEE Advanced,
Yeah.
JEE Mains, depending on whichever harder exam it is,
Right.
they'll do well. It has nothing to do, to be honest, with first NCERT ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಅದು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ and so on.
Yes.
That is the way teachers organize, nothing to do with students.
Yeah.
Teachers organize it in that way because it is easier for them to organize.
Right.
Just that.
Right.
There will be, when a management hires, there might be teachers who can teach NCERT level. They are not used to teaching JEE questions.
Right.
So they will teach that first.
Right.
Then maybe an NCERT teacher will come and teach, some JEE teacher will come and teach some extra stuff. But at the end of the day, from a student point of view, really the gradation is not in terms of the number of topics,
Yeah.
but the amount of depth of thinking.
Right.
So really, I would say, please don't think this way, that NCERT ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಬೋರ್ಡ್ಗೆ ಮೊದಲು ಮಾಡಿ, ನೀವೇನು ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಓನ್ಲಿ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ JEEಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರಿ. There is no such thing. Ask yourself, ಈಗ ನೀವು, if somebody says like this, ನೀವು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಟ್ರಿಗ್ನೋಮೆಟ್ರಿದು, ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಥೀಟಾ ಕಾಸ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಥೀಟಾನೇ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡ್ ಅಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಷನ್. ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಅಗ್ರಿ, ದಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡ್ ಅಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಷನ್.
Yes.
You have to do in topics also basic things first and then build your difficulty levels.
Yes.
Problem thinking, first question should be simple and easy to think. Over time it gets deeper and deeper to think.
Yes.
That if you object, I can understand.
Yes.
But I think this board exam idu madlilla, adu madlilla, I don't think this is true. By the end of the year, if the NCERT topics are done, I think you should be happy.
Yes.
It need not be that first you do this and then you do this.
Yes.
Because sometimes teachers realize in class it's not good to do it in a particular order.
Exactly.
A great example for students who know first years is L'Hopital's rule. Let me give you an example.
Right.
So if you think about it, L'Hopital's rule is basically used to compute limits, typically, what is called limits, students know. And it uses differentiation. But really if you think, differentiation only requires limits.
Correct.
So if limit chapter initially when you are teaching, how can you do differentiation?
Yes.
Topics are going in the opposite direction.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So their students don't complain. Sir, ನೀವು ಲಿಮಿಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ never do because it's easy to
Yes,
score.
yes,
That is why they
yes,
do.
yes.
But reality they should object.
Yes.
In principle they should object. Differentiation ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ.
Correct.
So coming back, see how L'Hopital's rule is useful. Even in limits, knowing the later topic sometimes is useful to solve.
Yeah.
Like that, teachers when they are teaching, they may realize instead of doing NCRT, they will go somewhere else and come back.
Right.
So you should not be complaining NCRT ಮೊದಲು ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. This ಮೊದಲು ಮತ್ತೆ and all is teachers' headache. Students should not be worried about.
Yes.
Students should at the end of the year ask whether NCRT things have been done.
Correct.
That is a valid objection to ask.
Yes.
But not like don't decide what teacher has to teach, in which order has to
Yes.
teach. I don't think that's good.
Yes.
That's what I would say.
That's a fair point. And I think that would really put some light into the idea of preparing, utilizing their time, prioritizing their time accordingly for NCRT and the competitive exams. As and when the exams pop up, it is very important that they study for it because the topics are already taught to them. There is nothing called as NCRT Madlilla. It's already done. Just prepare for it as per the requirement of the exam guidelines.
Exactly. This is what I was trying to come to. So I don't understand this objection at all because when I was learning according to topics, right? When I was a student, I didn't go to any coaching class as I said. So I was learning according to topics. I would like to understand. Okay, I take chemical bonding. I want to know what are the concepts here. Like what are the ideas? How do people guess how things bond?
Yes.
Really, the actual questions about the topics I'd be interested. Then I look into it. I'll try to solve some problems. This is what I would try to do. Once I have understood the basic outline of what are the various bonds and so on, I can solve few questions, CET, JE and all are unnecessary. I just look at some questions. I try to solve them and so on.
Right.
When the final exam comes, I would write NCRT or something, whatever, board exam. I just see in the last few days, look through the topic.
Yes.
I already know what they are.
Yes.
I'm just saying in the board exam what they expect us to write.
Yes.
So easy. Think of it this way. It's like you know how to go around in Bijay Kapikad Road. Around this Bijay Kapikad area. You know the whole area. You have traveled this so many times. Here, this way, that way. You've taken your gadi, walked, and gone around so many times. You roughly know the whole layout. Now if somebody asks you, ಅಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಮಾಲಿಂದ CFAL ಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ಭಾರತ್ ಮಾಲ್ CFAL ಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಹೇಗೆ ಹೋಗೋದು then you connect the dots ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೋಗೋದು okay you know the whole area roughly from one area to another it's not like you remember every route right. When you remember Vijay Kapikad area is it like in this Vijay area entire area if you think about it do you try to remember every possible route between 2 points no you just remember the overall picture when somebody asks something you connect the dot right
exactly
I am saying that's how we learn a topic chemical bonding or let's say rolling motion you take a rotational motion chapter. You would say how do objects rotate? Rotation andre ಏನು going in a circle. You understand that concept. Then you understand various ideas. Rolling andre ಏನು, this andre what it is. Various concepts you know. You understand it is applied in small problems. You understand. You know the layout of what kind of problems can be asked. Then when you go and open NCRT, you say okay, what are the main things to hit? Now it is path. From one point to another point, how to go. You just connect the dots. You know how to go and write in the exam.
Yes.
It's very easy to do this. Rather than by hearting, see if somebody tried to by heart in Vijay area, how to go between every pair of points. Ivar mane in the early mall, all possible hundreds of different ones. How can we by heart?
Yes.
It's impossible.
Yes.
That's what students are doing when they're by hearting for board exam.
Yes.
It's very difficult. Nobody can do it, I think.
Yes.
So you should remember the overall idea of what a topic is. You should have a bird's eye view of what the topic is about.
Yes.
And then it's easy to mark things.
Yes.
I would say. That's how I learn.
Very rightly put across. And I think the other thing that really troubles them is the marks. So I think like you initially told, they come from a background in a school where 100 out of 100 ನನ್ನ ಜನ್ಮ ಸಿದ್ಧ ಹಕ್ಕು. So I think that sort of creates a problem initially for the parents and the students where they cannot accept students getting 25%, 30%, 40% in the NEET exams or JEE mock exams or the Olympiads that they get. I think the idea around the marks also plays a vital role in students' preparation. So that is why they are like, nange marks barlebeku, I will just focus on that and let me leave everything else. So I think there, what would be like your advice to the students? Like what should they really consider as not marks as a checkpoint, but what else as a checkpoint?
I'm saying this is one of those things where I say they have to come in terms of the reality. Okay, because it is true. I'm not kidding. I mean, I think you already know this. That even the top student in JEE sometimes doesn't score full.
Yes.
And even if you score roughly 60%, 50 to 60% of the marks of the total marks, you generally get a JEE rank. You get selected in JEE.
Yes.
We all know that.
You are at 95 percentile and above.
Above, exactly.
Yes,
You generally
yes.
score 50 to 60.
Right.
And in Olympiads and all, see the recent PRMO, 30 was the cutoff out of 100 or something.
Right.
30 was the cutoff.
30%.
Which means what? Reality. The reality, if you look at all these cutoff, we are not making it up. They can only look it up.
Yes.
What is the cutoff?
Yes.
So the reality is that nobody scores full. Nobody can score full. They are hard things.
Yes.
So people have to come into terms with reality. Look around and understand, 10th standard is no longer the same game as 11th and 12th.
Yes.
Nobody can, it's not easy to score. with that reality, and once you come to terms with reality, you can face reality better, right? You can say, okay, now that I know nobody can score easily full, what is my next best strategy?
Right.
How can I score as much as possible?
Yes.
Then how do I come up with better strategies?
Right.
So I think people are not come to terms with reality only.
Yes.
That is my
yes. I think that is the initial trouble when students come from 10th through here for our 11th, 12th program. The first 3 months, I think they are having that crisis where they are like, ನಾನು ಮ್ಯಾಥ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ 98 ಇಂದ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ತೆಗ್ದವಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ನನಗೆ 40 ಸಹ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. So I think that side of making peace with coming in terms with that also I think is a.
I used to do something to shock students, but I don't know, I can suggest that. When I was doing this junior Ramanujan earlier, people scored in my 100-mark test. This is for high school students. As you said, high school students are so used to, I want marks 100 out of 100.
Yes.
And my junior Ramanujan tests are very hard. So one test, the topper was 20 marks or something. And people scored negatives and all, right? So they got all annoyed. I heard feedback from somebody that, we will never write this exam again. What kind of, torture this is, this kind of a thing. And I wanted to tell the students without telling them, without really telling them. I wanted to sort of convey the message that marks are all man-made. We make it up. So, they have no value. Value is in real thinking. So I wanted to sort of insultingly give them marks, to show them that marks mean nothing. I don't want to tell it. So next time exam, what I did, just to give you an example. Next time exam, what I did is, I said in the test paper, you can check the paper. The first 5 questions were silly questions. What is 1 plus 1 plus 1? What is 100-mark paper, 10 questions. 10 marks, first question. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 1 minus 1 plus 1 minus 1 plus 1. Each one 10 marks. 5 questions. Then 5 hard questions. My junior Raman is really the next 5.
Right.
Now everyone will score 50, right?
Right.
So, and in fact, if you don't score that way, you do calculation mistake, even worse. You lost the 10 which everybody was getting. So even the good students sometimes would do some calculation mistake and lose 10 marks, which others easily will get.
Right.
So then they realized the real, I didn't tell it, still out of 100. But naturally the students' expectation, it's a competition.
Right.
Naturally students realize the real score is out of 50 because the first 50 everybody will get.
Right.
See how they calibrated on their own.
Yes.
I told them, are you guys happy now? First 50 is free, right? They're like, sir, don't waste time, sir, don't use it. Sometimes you get that also wrong. Remove all that. So they started realizing that marks mean nothing.
Yes.
Once I basically gave a 10,000 mark paper. Each one was, 1,000 marks.
Okay.
Just to show that these numbers, 100 and all are nothing. We make it up.
Right.
So simply bloated the marks sometimes did this, all kinds of things I did.
Right.
After some 4 or 5 tests, they realized these are all not important. They started focusing on the real questions.
Right.
So I think my style is to shock students out of this thing, to show them marks mean nothing.
Yes.
I just
numbers don't mean anything.
These numbers don't really mean anything, really.
Yes.
What really matters is the exams and how you relatively do compared to other people.
Yes.
Even in JEE,
Yes.
that year might be a very hard paper.
Yes.
And that year even above 40 if you score, you might 40 percentile, you might get 40% you might get selected.
Yes. That's why they have the percentile in place.
Exactly, they have percentile in place.
Yes.
To put that in, as I said, I put those 5 easy questions.
Yes.
Students already realize they are not important.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
So even in NCRT, when they take 50% of the score, CET 50% of the score, it's like that roughly.
Yes.
The NCRT should not really matter. It's the CET that will be the deciding factor anyway.
Exactly.
So then people start complaining, please remove the NCRT.
Yes.
Again, government will remove it.
Yes.
It keeps alternating.
Yeah, because that is where people don't fail to understand. Like board is still out of 300 PCM,
Yeah.
but CET is out of 180. So
Yeah.
1 mark of CET is far more valuable than
Yeah.
almost double the value of the
Correct.
1 mark of board.
Correct.
So I think if they value it more, if
Not
they see
just
the
that, it's
value-
easier to score there also. So it's way
Exactly.
more
Yes.
important.
Yes.
1 mark of CET.
Correct. I think that is where the students need to understand. It's not about marks
Yeah.
at the end of the day. All it boils down to is really understanding the topic,
Yeah.
loving the topic, and then understanding it and trying to solve as many different kinds of problems just to serve your curiosity, not to do well in the exams.
Yeah.
And automatically you will become a natural scorer in these
Yeah.
exams.
Yeah.
I think that's.
I mean, even if you don't love it, let's say somebody student is like, I tried, I can't love it. Even then, the most efficient strategy is to learn by topics.
Right.
Because you can just, as I said, it's like learning an area.
Yes.
Learn the main 4 few concepts and then repeatedly use them. That's all you're doing in problems.
Yes.
Even if you don't love it, you just want to get out of this and become you want to be a rich MBA management person.
Yes.
Let's say that's your aim in life. Be a rich person.
Right.
Buy a BMW. That's your aim.
Right.
Even then, the best path is by topics.
By topics.
And that's what I'm saying. It's the most efficient way
Yes.
to learn anything.
Yes.
Tomorrow, even when you become a management expert, also it's the same.
Yes.
The best way to learn a topic is learn something is by topics.
Correct. That's very nicely put. So I think we have tried to cover most of the doubts that our current students in 11th and the students who are going to come to our 11th from 10th standard would have, and the parents would have. And we have tried to cover the point of view of the teachers or educators, along with the point of view of the students as well. So thank you, Srikanth, for really enlightening us here, and I am very sure the students and the viewers here would really love the way you have explained all these things and get to learn few things and implement this and inculcate this in your academic years to follow. So thank you once again, and if you like this video, kindly hit like button on the video, and comment if you have any concerns or doubts or clarification. We'll be happy to answer, and please subscribe to our channel and please share it with your friends as well. Thank you everyone.
I'll also answer the questions. Generally I answer CFL comment questions, so you can put the questions in the comments and I will answer them.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Srikanth.
Thank you so much. Yes.